So how's it going? So I want to show people how I'm actually installing my new Spurzle tuning gears onto a replacement neck. This is a Warmoth roasted maple neck. And I watched some tutorials on how to do this, and I didn't like any of them. So I'm going to show you what I did, basically following the instructions that come with the tuners. And I did 3 already, and I can show you the rest of them, how I went about it. So we'll go about doing this. So first things first, the directions are really very basic, and they come attached to the side of the box. So they say place a sleeve nut into the hole, position with the guide edge, firmly hold in place to spot with a needle type tool. Okay, so essentially this is the guide edge right here, and these grommets here. So I don't know if you can get this, but so here's essentially what I did. Was I just put this over the holes, which mine were pre-drilled for Spurzles, and I dropped that in there like so. And then I just make sure that looks pretty straight, just like that. So I line up the edge and with the edge of the headstock. Okay, and then I just took a pin, and then this one lines up, my pins line up with the outer hole. So I just put that in there and I made a mark. And I did that with all 6. And then you don't have to worry if you miss, because if you screw this up, the tuner is gonna cover, where that pin mark would be. Unless you're way outside, but you shouldn't be, because if you're following the template that they give you, you'll end up covering it up anyways if you screw up. But you'll notice that you don't see any holes there. So the second thing that I did was I measured from my pinhole to the edge of the neck, just to see if they all lined up. And they all were exactly a 1/2 inch away. So once I measured those and I saw that they were all exactly in line, then I knew that my tuners would line up straight. I didn't need to, because with the pins in there, you can't, line them up first and see them going in straight. But you can see these are all going in straight. They look fantastic. And then there's the tops. And these are graduated, so I shouldn't need a string tree with these. But anyways, so once I put the pinholes in and I measured just to make sure that they were equally distant from the pinhole to the edge of the neck, headstock, I then followed the instructions. So the second part of the instructions have you insert a key. I didn't really do that. Well, I did, but just to make sure the pin lined up with my hole, my little pinhole. And then before you drill, you want to make sure you have a number 36 drill bit or 2.7 millimeter, and then you're going to drill it to 3/16 deep. My drill bits, I have a whole bunch of them. None of them are marked. I can't tell what the size is. So what I did was I just eyeballed the drill bit. And then I had an old paint stirrer, and I drilled holes in there. And then I took out, you can see the pin. So after I drilled the hole, I just dropped this in to make sure that it fit. And it was a perfect fit. And just to make sure, I just held it firm. And I try and push it side to side, back and forth, to make sure there's no wiggle room there. And I actually got lucky on the first try. and it fit, and there's no wiggle room. Like, yeah, you can see me do that. So if you do it wrong, you get the wrong bit, you try this out. Doesn't fit, too small, too big. If it's too big, you'll have wiggle room, and the pin will wobble around in the hole. And if it's too small, it's just not gonna fit in the hole. I found that to be really helpful, and it actually confirmed for me that this would fit well. So then, once I knew that I had the correct drill bit, I taped it off. I measured from the tip of the bit 3/16, and I put my tape on the bit, and then I'll do a demonstration on this one. So my pinhole is there. So that's lined up. And you know, the thing about it with 3/16 is if you go just even a little bit too far, you're gonna be okay. Obviously you don't wanna drill through the headstock, but even if you go just a little bit in too much, now I'm just gonna clean up that hole just a little bit. And then just drop this in. Fits in there perfectly. Now, take my washer and my grommet here. Drop that over. Doesn't matter. Drop this in, start screwing it in. Screws in perfectly. And then I'll tighten it. And it's super important that your tuners are tightened really well. And if you have a guitar now that has tuners already on it, when you change strings, just check to make sure that they're really tight, because they will wobble around, and that can cause tuning problems. So there you have it. There's that. Beautifully installed. Everything is in line. So I'll go on, I'll do the next one. And I'm just gonna take my pin, I'm just gonna tap that hole. Mostly this, I'm just widening it just a little bit. Both of these that are left over. Just so that when I set my drill bit down, it just hits the hole. And if you have this and you've spent a decent amount of money on these new necks, then you don't want to screw this up. I watched a video, somebody installing these, and because he didn't do it the right way, he tried to eyeball it. And he didn't like the way this little template was working out for him. Because he didn't like that, he ended up struggling with it. And then he took a pair of pliers and he pulled these pins right out. I don't understand why you would do that, but he did it, and whatever, but that doesn't work for me. I want to do it the right way. And I have never installed a tuning gear in my life, but perfectly fitting in there. Thank you, Jay. And since I drilled this last hole, pop this one in. And when you're popping these in, not like you can't fix it, but you want to make sure that you start with, since they're graduated, You want to make sure you start with the tallest and work your way down. Just do that finger tight. And there you have it. Start tall and they work their way down. And you can see they're perfectly lined up. They look great. And these black and gold look awesome on the roasted maple. So there you have it. I hope that was helpful. Because I needed some help when I was watching some videos and they just didn't seem to cut it. So good luck. Have fun.